Hi, Jake the Foxy here. This video is a little bit different from my other videos in that there is no gameplay footage in this video, but please do not skip it. Because this video is an introduction to my new Mario Party series. Now, one thing that I have really wanted to do for a long time is play through every single board in every Mario Party game, from 1 to 8. However, I don't want to just record each of the games. I actually want to do a little bit of an experiment. You see, back in the day when I used to play these games all the time with my sisters, we never had enough people for a full 4-player game, which meant one of the characters was inevitably controlled by the AI. But to us, it seemed like it never really mattered what difficulty we set the AI at. Like, sometimes we'd put the AI on hard, and the AI would come in last place. The other time, we'd set it on easy, and the AI would win. It would beat all of us. So I want to figure out once and for all if the AI difficulty setting really makes a difference, or if it's all completely random. Now, I will be playing these games by myself, which means that there will be 3 computer control characters. And there's usually always at least 3 different difficulty levels in each of the Mario Party games. Easy, normal, and hard. Sometimes they have different names, but it's essentially the same thing. So I hope you see where I'm going with this. In these games, I'll set the computer characters to each of the different levels. That way, when I'm done with all the videos, I can compare the final stats and see if the AI difficulty really makes a difference or not. Also, I'll see how I myself fared and see how I compare to the rest of the AI characters. Now, I won't be including any of the extra unlockable difficulty levels that appear in some of the games, like extra hard or very hard, because 1, they're unlockables. They're not part of the basic Mario Party experience. And 2, I want to try to keep these stats as pure as possible so we can have a clean basis of comparison for this experiment. As I already mentioned, I will be covering every single Mario Party game in the mainline series, which I consider to be all of the numbered games 1 through 8. Now, I will not be including any of the games that came out after 8, because it was at this point in time that Nintendo started to change the baseline core mechanics, so it would not make sense to include those games in this experiment. I also will not be including any of the handheld games, for the same reason. They all play very differently from the mainline games, except for Mario Party DS. I may still include that game, I just haven't decided yet. One thing that I really struggled with when determining how to go about this experiment was just how many turns to set for each of the games. Now, I would love to do 50 turns per game. That would be so epic, but it would just last way too long. I don't want this series to go on forever. Also, I really wanted to have each of the games be its own separate video. I didn't want to have to split them up, which I would have to do if I went for 50 turns. I also considered doing 20 turns, which seems to be the default Mario Party standard. But when I was just playing through the games again, just to try them out, I often found out that the game would end just as things were starting to get good. So 20 turns really felt like it was just way too short. I was also afraid that I wouldn't be able to showcase all of the games, like I would miss way too much stuff. Not that that's really the purpose of this series, but I still would like to show you guys as much of the games as I can. That's why I felt like a turn length of 30 to 35 was ideal. In order to keep things relatively consistent, I decided to use the same characters for each of the AI levels. And the reason for that is that it really shouldn't matter what characters are which, because all the characters have relatively similar hitboxes, they perform more or less the same way in the minigames, and they even seem to behave more or less the same on the board itself. Now, in some of the later games, the characters seem to have preferred items. I'm not sure how much that would actually play into things. It would be interesting to see if there is any difference between the characters, but that's a whole nother experiment, and I am not prepared to do that right now. So, without further ado, let me tell you the AI levels that I assigned to each of the 6 starting characters. Mario is kind of the definitive Mario Party character. His name is in the title, after all, which is why I decided to make him normal difficulty, because Mario in any of the sports titles has always been the most well-rounded of the characters, so it just makes sense to make him normal. Luigi is kind of seen as the underdog in Mario games, always in his brother's shadow, which is why I decided to make him easy difficulty. Not because I don't like him, quite the contrary, I want to see the easy players win. And Luigi is known for being able to win Mario Party by doing absolutely nothing. So maybe some of that Luigi luck will help shine through and offset the easy AI difficulty setting. Peach is what I consider to be the secret boss of Mario Party. Whenever I played games with my sisters and Peach was the AI, she would always win! Every time, it felt like. I mean, she was the bane of our existence, and I feel like I'm not the only person to have noticed this, which is why I had to make Peach hard. Hopefully, I can triumph this time. Yoshi is my absolute favorite of all the Mario Party characters. I always choose him to play whenever given the chance, which is why Yoshi will be played by me. DK, I decided to make easy. Not because he's a pushover, but because I get the feeling that he's the kind of character who would just let the others win. In later Mario Party games, he actually steps aside and performs a more supportive role trying to help the characters, so I think it made sense making him easy. Wario, I decided to make normal, because Wario thinks he's the best, but he's not. Plus, I felt like I could use one more normal character in the roster. Of course, there are more Mario Party characters than just these 6, but they weren't added until later games, so I'll cover those characters when we get to them, telling you what difficulty I set for them and why. So, the only thing left to decide for this experiment was how to actually score the different characters at the end of it all. Now, perhaps the most obvious metric to use is simply the number of games won. Like, for each of the AI difficulty levels, anytime one of their characters wins a game by coming in first, they get 1 point. And then we just compare the total number of points for each of the different groups at the end. But Mario Party can be a bit more complicated than that. I mean, the goal of the game is to try and collect as many stars as possible. That's how you win. So perhaps the second most obvious metric to use would be the total number of stars won. For each game, we add up all the stars that each of the AI difficulty levels collect, and then whichever group has the most total stars at the end is obviously the best. But there's still one more comparison that we could make. Now, it might turn out that the AI difficulty does not matter at all for the board game portion, but it might matter a lot for the mini games. So it would be really interesting to see how the different levels compare just in the mini games. And to that end, I'll also be comparing the total number of coins won in mini games for each of the groups. Well, that just about covers it for everything I wanted to talk about with this new upcoming Mario Party series, and the experiment that I wanted to do to try and determine if there really is a difference between the different AI difficulty levels, or if it's all just Mario Party randomness. I hope everything that I said made sense, but if you have any questions at all, please be sure to leave a comment down below. And the very next video that I post will be the first game in the series, with Mario Party at Mario's Rainbow Castle. I really hope to see you all there, and I do hope you'll enjoy this series as we continue forward. Well then, till next time, bye!